Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Navigating Midlife Live. I'm conniepretula. I sometimes also call myself the menopause navigator, which is, of course, all part of a woman's midlife. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject that I think is important to talk about. Can we be doing too much for our health? Is there a limit? Does there come a point where we're doing so much it's actually backfiring now? And I had a discussion with a friend this weekend actually about this very topic, and it made me think, sometimes it just gets so confusing. Even for me, it gets so confusing. So when I look at the various channels, YouTube channels I follow, people on social media that I follow, even all of the webinars that I attend for my continuing education, I'm constantly doing that. And these are doctors of all different sorts. Some of them are medical doctors, some of them are naturopathic doctors, some of them are chiropractic doctors. And everybody has something to share. Heck, even I have something to share. But I think sometimes it becomes maybe a bit confusing, and people start thinking, well, okay, if this is healthy, and we can also get into a state of something that's called orthorexia, where we are so focused on our health that we want to control everything. We want to control our environment. We want to control the types of food that we're buying to make our meals. And in a lot of cases, we also don't like to go out because, and whether it's to somebody's place or whether it's to a restaurant or, cafe, whatever, sometimes people won't go out because they can't control the ingredients that are being used. So it makes them feel very uncomfortable. So we can almost get to at that point, probably about 10 years ago, when I was so focused on healing my body and I wanted my health back so badly. It was like, no, I have to control everything. I don't want anybody making anything for me. I don't want to go out, all those types of things. And I think I've shared that in the past as well, too. But then when it comes to different things that we're doing, let's take supplements, for example. Do I need to take every single one of these supplements? And when I was talking to my friend, I said, well, the supplements that I take, these are the reasons why I take them. And I was naming off, okay, this one is specifically for this, and this one is specifically that, I hear about from doctors and such that these are good to be on. I think about, in my case, with my health, is this really important? Is this important for me to take this supplement? So I start to discern what is going to be best for me. And I truly believe that if you are buying good quality food, I do always recommend organics for various reasons. And I know sometimes the price point for some people catch it. But the reason I choose organics is, one, the people who are working around those foods, so especially vegetables and fruits, if it's organic, they're not being exposed to toxic chemicals, to spray for bugs and all those different types of things. Or if there are other workers that, a lot of times there's workers that are coming from other countries to work on those farms. So that's one reason. The other reason is, of course, foods, then that's just better off overall for the planet, for our water, because that stuff, of course, goes into our water, what's being dissipated in the air, all those types of things. So that's why I choose organics. But I also choose organics because I don't want to deal with those chemicals. After I lost my health and regained it, it's like I'm not going to take any chances with anything. That's the reason I do recommend organics. But then if we take a look at if we're eating good quality food, and even if it's not organic, try and buy what's local. And if organics are expensive for you, then go by the Dirty Dozen list. You know what fruits and vegetables are on that list. I recommend at least buying those organic if you can't afford everything organic. So when we look at that, our food should be giving us the majority of the nutrients that we need. Now, if you have a specific health, major cardiovascular disease on both sides of my family. So I want to do everything that I can do to support my heart. And in some ways, that means taking certain supplements that are beneficial for my heart. Now, but other than that, it's like, okay, well, I don't need to take a multivitamin because I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and they're, you know, picked within a couple of days of me buying at a market, and I eat them fairly quickly once I bring them home. So I don't need a multivitamin, but I do need a multi-mineral. Women, as they go into menopause, do need mineral support. And this is exactly what my friend asked me. Well, what's the difference between a multi-mineral and a multivitamin? And I said, well, the multivitamin is vitamins, like, you know, the different B vitamins and vitamin C and those types of things. The minerals are things like zinc and calcium and magnesium. You know, as I say, women do need minerals in menopause, but also depending on the soil that the food has been grown in, a lot of the soils are getting depleted in minerals. And that's because of the over farming. That's where, again, the organic farming and biodiversity farming is actually more beneficial for the soil and more beneficial for the food that we eat. So that's something that, yeah, I take a multi-mineral because that's the support that my body needs. But then what those are carbs or carbohydrates, fats, and protein. Those are the three things that our body does need on a daily basis to support all the functions that our bodies are doing. So, for example, we see high carb, low carb, uh, you know, carnivore diet, you know, which is all protein. There's so many different types of diets out there. We've even seen high fat, low fat. So in some cases, and I'm just going to take fat and protein, for example, for a second, if we healthier for our body, not necessarily. Especially for women who, and this would be both women and men, but for example, somebody who's had their gallbladder removed. Gallbladder removal is generally more common in women than it is in men, just because of our estrogen. But somebody who's had a gallbladder removed, should they be eating a lot of fat? Well, you don't have a gallbladder, your body's not necessarily breaking down the fat properly. That's where sometimes supplementation is important because it can support that fat breakdown. But if you have your gallbladder, not necessarily, it could be putting on too much weight. And that's where sometimes clients get really frustrated. It's like, why am I not losing any weight? Well, let's take a look. How are you eating? What are you eating? Fats are important in menopause because the estrogen is sort of what keeps our joints more lubricated, our skin, our hair, our eyes. You know, fat is good for our brain, but there really is a limit. I recommend no more than 40%. That's just a very general guideline, but that's where working one-on-one with my clients, I can give them much better advice as to how much fat they should be eating on a daily basis. Let's take protein. I'm not sure if I shared it on this channel, but I know I have shared recently. I was gaining weight earlier this year, and I kind of got on the 1 gram per pound of protein train. And definitely, well, I shouldn't call it a train. It's not really a trend. It is important. But I was just kind of eyeballing things. I wasn't really weighing up protein every day because I do resistance train 3 times a week. And I like to push myself and lift heavier weights. Um, and but I was putting on weight and I couldn't figure out, like, it's like, well, I know that this isn't all muscles, something's going on here. So I started tracking everything, just as I make my clients do. I joke around and say I need to client myself every now and then. And so that's what I did. I started tracking all of my, gosh, I was eating about 150 grams of protein every day, as compared to I should be somewhere around between 120 and 130. And so I really cut back. It's like, okay, I'm eating too much protein. Once I stopped eating that level of protein, cut things back to where I should be, I then started to release some weight. Some of that came off. Now let's talk about carbs for a second. Definitely, and it will have an effect. Is it going to be a negative effect? No, in most cases it won't, other than, you might not be releasing the weight that you want to release. So let's take a look at the carbohydrates. Can you eat too many carbohydrates? Yeah, I would say that you absolutely can eat too many carbohydrates, with an exception. And I have to share this, the little hummingbirds at my flowers. It comes by every day, and it just thrills me to death that it comes in to feed on my flowers. Anyway, back to on to carbohydrates you're eating. In my world, I tell my clients, when it comes to the dark green vegetables, so kale, cauliflower, broccoli, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, um, uh, uh, what else is there? I think those are the majority of them, those dark green, very fibrous vegetables. As far as I'm concerned, those are zero. Those are 0 calories. They're zero carbs. Eat as much of them as you want. And in fact, I always encourage my clients to fill half of their plate with those types of vegetables. Now, sometimes I'll get clients saying, well, that kind of gives me gas. And it might, or do break down those vegetables. So that's where um, if you like incorporate them slowly, a little bit at a time, if you're not used to eating them regularly, then over time your bacteria in your gut will get used to breaking them down, and it should eliminate the gas. They're very, very good for our liver when we go into menopause. Actually, they're even very good for men and for their livers, how good they are for our liver. So those kinds of vegetables, absolutely free. Now, when it comes to the lettuces, things like romaine, red green lettuce, those types of things, those are good for us, but they don't have as much nutrients as the dark green, very fibrous vegetables do. Lettuce is mostly water. It breaks down very easily. Put some lettuce in a pan and saute it, and what are you left with? You're not left with a whole lot. So I don't mind clients eating lettuce, but that's where I always recommend add in some kale, add in some broccoli that maybe you cooked the night before and chop it up and add it into your salad. When it comes to the starchy vegetables, so things like sweet potatoes, white potatoes, rice, well, that's a grain, but it's in that starchy category. But even carrots or peas or beans, if they're in a resistant state, so you've cooked them the day before, they've cooled, even though you may be reheating them, they're now a resistant starch. So they have less of an effect on our body. They typically being very beneficial for our large intestine and for the bacteria that are in there. But again, it depends on what you're putting on them. If you're smothering them in, when you reheat them, if you're smothering them in butter or sour cream or, yogurt, those types of things, that's where you have to think about, okay, how much fat have I had throughout the day? So, can we be too healthy? Is more better? Uh, no, more isn't necessarily better all the time. And I know that a lot of my clients kind of roll their eyes when I ask them, okay, let's go back to square one, and I'm going to get you to 3 or 4 days. And we can quickly start to see, okay, some of these things are just a little out of line. And does it mean that you have to be perfect all the time? No. But that's why I say I client myself every now and then, because I get busy and it's like, okay, yeah, that looks like enough. And, sometimes I lose track of what I'm eating. And my clients that do go in and record their food on a regular basis, they do find that it really helps them to be just a little bit more mindful, without kind of getting overboard, without feeling that if they don't do that, they're just going to fall completely off track. Um, it's just good to just do a little check too, and this is something that I constantly acknowledge with my clients, and I acknowledge it with myself, or with my friends that ask me advice. Looking after yourself is a full-time job, and that probably sounds really probably heavy. It's like, well, looking after myself, if being healthy is a full-time job, how do I fit everything else in? And it really is about building a routine. Anytime I work with a new client, I will say to them, it's going to take time for you to incorporate these changes in a more efficient way, so that I'm not scrambling at that last minute to create a healthy meal for myself. So it is a full-time job, but you know what? You're worth it. And especially once you've gotten to midlife. I know every woman, and it almost doesn't matter what age they are, but especially once they've hit midlife, they've looked after everybody, they've always put themselves last. And that's why one of my slogans is put yourself first, because it is to do the things that you need to do so that you feel fantastic, because menopause can be amazing. I love being in menopause. It's a very powerful time of a woman's life. So taking a little time to do the things that make us feel all that much better, it's totally worth it. So anyway, if you're catching the replay and you've got a comment, and just put hashtag replay, I'd love to answer your questions. If you are feeling a little lost, very confused about all of the advice out there, you don't know what's right for you, you don't know, should I do this? Should I do that? I'd love to talk to you. I do offer a complimentary consultation. You can find it on my website, which is conniepretula.com. And yeah, we can have a conversation and figure out, what do you need to do? Would one-on-one work be best for you? I also have a group membership, and for some people, they love to go into the group membership because they do sort of like that group atmosphere, and I'll put the links down below as well too. So thank you for joining. I hope that you found this beneficial. And as I say, if you've got questions, post them below. And I look forward to seeing you next week, Monday, on Navigating Midlife Live. I'm hoping to have a guest, but we will see. And